had several requests from men mostly about how do I always end up in the friend zone? Can you please do something on friend zone? Thank you so much for joining us again on Second Act TV. So happy to welcome back Joni Caldwell Lerner, the motivational coach, dating coach, and host of Wake Up with Joni. Joni, thanks so much for being here again.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. You know, I love to come play.
I know, and I love playing with you.
Yeah.
Today, I want to play in the friend zone.
Well, we already do that.
What a great transition. No, we've had several requests in our comments from men mostly about how do I always end up in the friend zone? Can you please do something on friend zone? And I thought, well, that is a good topic. We've done stuff on, can men and women even be friends? But how do you always end up in a friend zone? And as usual, I ran across some stuff that gave some interesting tips. What do you think about the friend zone, Joni?
You know, if somebody is finding themselves in the friend zone over and over again, there's an old saying, and I may have said it, forgive me if I have. If somebody calls you a jackass, that's one thing. But if 3 people call you a jackass, then buy a saddle. So if you're being friend zoned multiple times and there's something that you're doing or being that you can shift, and it can be shifted. There are things that people may not be aware of, and this is male and female.
Absolutely.
It is not gender specific.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of the reasons. We talk a lot about signs, but let's talk about some of the reasons. And one, a good one here is that, well, you just choose the wrong people. You have a type. What do they say here? You have specific standards. That expectations that are way too specific, way too unattainable, and you put people on a pedestal. Yeah. Let's talk about that.
We've talked about lists and, being very specific about things, blue eyes, tall, whatever. That's unattainable in some ways, goals. Like are you very specific? You've got 12 things that have to happen. They may not happen, but if you have kind, intelligent, loving, generous of spirit, funny, these things, they may come in a 6'2" package, or they may come in a 5'7" package. But if you're not saying I have to have X, Y, and Z, then you are opening yourself up to more possibilities.
Right.
And then you talked about putting somebody on the pedestal. So what they talked about specifically was that if you say to somebody, you've gone on a date, oh, you're the perfect woman for me, or you're the perfect man for me. As opposed to, wow, I really enjoyed our time together. Want to get together again? That's very different.
Right. And what I want to add here is that the reason you end up in the friend zone is because, well, one, you're trying too hard and you act differently. You don't put your real self out for somebody to get to know. They're not pushing you away. Like, I don't want to be around you, because you're pleasant to be around. Maybe you're boosting their ego, whatever, but you're a friend. You're in the friend zone. You're not making yourself attractive. So how do we stop? Some good tips on making that stop, Joni. One, see what your expectations, if they make sense.
Somebody once told me expectations always lead to disappointment. So on the one hand, if I expect you to act a certain way and you act a different way, then I can be disappointed. But if I have an expectation that I want to have a romantic relationship with a person, then I probably need to communicate something along those lines before it becomes the friend zone. And I have a client, very specifically, this happened. Be clear. Don't hope, gee, I hope they understand that I have a crush on them, or I hope they come around to liking me, or I hope he makes a move on me. Because you talked about men asking this in the beginning. Being too nice and being too available is really not a turn on. It's a turn off.
Yeah. Well, that's the second big point here is really you. Thank you for leading us into that. Being too available.
Yeah.
That and yes, that is not gender specific. If you're too available, you're not interesting. I think they gave the example here. If if you have something all the time, if you have it at your fingertips, the value is just, it plummets. It's just human nature. I don't know. Maybe it's capitalism.
Well, good point. So supply and demand for our economics majors out there, supply and demand. If there's too much supply, the demand goes down. So if the person is too available, then the demand or the draw toward that person goes way down. So if somebody says, hey, can you get together on tonight or in 5 minutes?
Yeah.
They're not really honoring you. And maybe they had a spontaneous moment. There could be that. That's fine. But if they do it consistently, they're not honoring you. They're really not that interested in you. And if somebody says to me, are you free Saturday night? And if I'm not, then be honest. Don't cancel your plans. I'm begging you, folks. Keep living your life, because you are far more interesting if you have a full and beautiful life. Never say something like, oh, anytime you want.
Yeah.
Whenever you want, dear. Are you available? At your beck and call. No.
The
Anything
sad
that
thing,
smacks of that.
Yeah, the sad thing about all this is, in a way, is that what we're talking about is really accommodating behavior that would be so nice, if we would appreciate each other for that. And we're almost suggesting, or it sounds like we might be suggesting playing games, but we're not.
No. You said the word authentic. You said it earlier. Be your authentic self. And if you have plans, be honest. I do have plans on Saturday night, but I'm free on Sunday night. Are you free? Because I would like to see you again.
I have to admit, I was so guilty of that. I've done that. I did that a lot.
Which part?
When I really like someone, and then, last minute or something, they call, hey, what you want to do this? And I would change my plans. I always put the men ahead of my girlfriends, and I wouldn't do that again.
I did the same thing. I mean, we come from the same generation, right? Always please the man. If I'm not available, maybe he won't want to be with me. Well, you know what? If I'm not available and he doesn't want to be with me because I have plans with my sister or something like that, well, then that wasn't my guy.
Right, exactly.
I need to believe that it's all going to work out the way it's supposed to work out.
Yeah. So really think about that. Being too available. When is it being too available? When are you just, being a good person? But there has to be a little mystery, and that is an absolute reason people, men and women alike, are put in the friend zone. So yeah. Think about that. The third point here: you try to please instead of seduce. If you're pursuing a woman, you don't want to be her friend and confidant. I mean, if you find yourself in situations, especially if this is a pattern, where all of a sudden women start talking to you about somebody else they have a crush on, or asking your opinion about their love life, etc., that's a big sign that something is going wrong here.
So it's interesting, because as you were saying that, I hadn't thought this before. What if I was interested in I'm a man, I'm interested in a woman, and she starts talking about what you just said. I might, as a man, say, you know what? I don't really want to talk about other men in your life, because the truth is I'm attracted to you.
Right.
And so I don't want to be your girlfriend. I don't want to be in the friend zone. I'm interested. Like, be upfront. Because sometimes a man can be really sensitive. He can be in touch with his feelings and emotions, which I can feel the guys out there cringing. Some of them are like, but that man needs to keep it close to his heart in the beginning. You don't just, because they need to show up as masculine. They need to show up as confident, and not saying, I just want to be there for you.
Yeah, I know. And see, and again, that's something, what a nice thing to say.
I know.
But it's a friend zone thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so again, for those men who, and women also, but this was mostly men that asked for this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that puts you right in the friend zone. Now,
Yeah.
again, and we're going to get around to why that may not be all, that bad later, but just these are the points you got to keep in your head. The other thing is, if you have somebody and you're finding yourself doing couple things, like you're the they're the plus one, the convenient plus one, but they don't want to have a relationship with you, all that kind of stuff. If you allow yourself to be slotted there, you're probably going to get stuck there until you pull yourself out. The lastly here is you constantly highlight your own insecurities.
Ooh.
Gosh, that's such an important and big point. And people do that. And it's so annoying. An example, you have trouble accepting compliments. If somebody gives you a compliment, just, hey, thank you. Not, oh yeah, no, oh, really, you really mean that? It's amazing how often people do that. I had to learn that, because some people think that by accepting a compliment, but that in and of itself is kind of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Arrogant.
Arrogant. Yeah. No, it's not. It's thank you. Right.
Yes. Listen, this goes way back, decades back for me. I mean, I was a chubby little kid. I had frizzy hair. So there are a lot of insecurities that were born out of those years. And so this is something that I have worked with. I don't want to say struggled with, but I'm very conscious of. And a client the other day, different client, said to me, we were talking about profiles. We're working on the dating profiles. And I said, she has this incredible bone structure, a great smile. We were talking about, she goes, well, you're so beautiful. And I almost, I was like, I said, thank you. But my nose is really long. And so I have to be careful with I did it. I did the thing we're talking about just 2 days ago. With all my training, I fell back into, and I don't want to outshine people. That's an old story.
One of the worst ways, I think, and it gets so annoying to me, is if people self-deprecate. Now, self-deprecating humor can be funny, once or twice, or when it's, it's the right.
Not in a dating situation.
No, but it's okay. Make fun of yourself for, oh, can you believe I did that? But don't go over and over and over and over and over again. There's just, it just makes me cringe when people do that, because really all you're asking for is some sort of validation, or you're fishing
or you're
for
trying to
compliments.
beat them. Yeah, you're trying to beat them to the punch too. We did a segment a long time ago about weight loss, and a long time ago I was enormous, and I used to make fat jokes. This is 30 years ago, right? Okay. And then I lost all the weight, and I made a fat joke. It was just an automatic thing. So here I am, this thin person at this dinner, and I made a fat joke. It was like a lead balloon, because they didn't understand where it was coming from, and they thought I was just a mean person talking about people who had weight challenges. That was a huge.
Oh, I can't.
I know.
Yeah.
It was a huge lesson for me. So stop it, people, especially in a dating situation. Do not put yourself down on any level for anything ever.
I do see that women do this, and it just annoys the crap out of me when somebody who's beautiful, thin, good, and then they complain. I just want to slap them.
You and every other person.
Yeah. Do you know who you're talking to? How they might feel, and knowing that look at you. I mean, it's almost insulting. So don't get me started on that.
Well, stop okay. This is true though. But even that person is looking for ways to upper limit themselves. She's not allowing herself to be happy. She's not a bad person. But she's bringing her energy down, and she's bringing her happiness down by doing that.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. You can be 5 pounds overweight. You can be 100 pounds overweight. It's what's going on up here about yourself.
Well, we're starting to come to the end here. And really the bottom line to all this is behavior that, isn't bad. It's good. You're pleasing, you're whatever. But if we're talking friend zone, you need to be aware of this, male or female. And then the other part, what I alluded to earlier, friend zone doesn't have to be horrible, because most relationships, if not, I mean, it's a high percentage, we've done videos on this, of long-term relationships start as friends. So if you're just aware of the fact that men and women really can't be friends, which is another video we did, you may be able to use the friend zone for you. But if you want to get out of it, then don't do the things we discussed. And Joni, I'll throw it over to you to close us out here.
Well, as you were talking, and this may be sort of off the wall, but I was talking to somebody and I found them very attractive. This is before. I found them very attractive. And he started talking about his toenails or something. I mean, it was just, that is the least sexy thing I've ever heard in my life. And I couldn't get out of my head. Yeah. So be very conscious about what you're sharing. And sometimes we get a little nervous and we're talking a little, but TMI, that's what it is. TMI. No TMIing. That'll put you in the friend zone.
Yeah.
That's my last thing to say.
Exactly. And again, this is all at the beginning of a relationship. A lot of the stuff we describe, the supportive, the, being there, being available, whatever. Once you're in the relationship, it's a whole other story. So these aren't bad things, but they're not good things if you want to move into a romantic relationship. And with that said, Joni, thank you. I always appreciate your time. I will link to all of your information, your website. As you said, so many people are already coaching with you and they just love you. And we have a Calendly link. Try saying that 3 times in the show notes below that Joni has set aside just for you second act people that might want to get in touch with her. So be sure to check that out. And of course, Joni's podcast, Wake Up with Joni. And Joni, I can't wait to see you again soon on Second Act TV.